Here's a quick tips and tricks guide if you're going to try to install the Prinsu roof rack for your Chevy Colorado. Now, this is not to replace the guide that CBI provides on their website. I put the link below, but this is just to kind of help you in case you have any questions or you want to see how much it involves before you go ahead and do it yourself. So, let's take a look. The rack arrived in the square tube box, and once you open it up, you get all the cross members and side rails along with a packet full of hardware and a gasket. Now, since I was drilling into the top of a brand new truck, I went online and I picked up a couple extra of the plus nuts. Some people call them rivet nuts, so that way I wouldn't get stuck with a hole in the top of my truck and no way to fill it if I made a mistake, which is good because I did. And so here you can see the different hardware. They give you just enough. I highly suggest you take a look at the description below and go pick up an extra set of those plus nuts just in case something goes wrong. I started by installing the T-nuts onto the wind guard. I have the wind guard with the 40-inch light cut out. That way you could slide the T-nuts into the silver bar. You had to slide it in from one end, getting them all lined up. Now, I left them pretty loose because I assembled this entire rack without tightening anything down, and then I tightened everything at the end. Keep in mind when you install the cross rails to make sure that you have the slots. There's 2 slots on each end facing upwards and not to have them upside down. Once the rack has been assembled, the first thing we need to do is remove the weather stripping. Now there's a weather strip on the left and the right, and you do so by grabbing it towards the window and pushing up. And when you push up, you'll release these little clips. You can see here what the clip looks like. They have little tabs holding it in place. And just make sure you don't lose any of these clips because you'll need them later. Following CBI's instructions, you're going to mark a line 7 inches from the rear window on both sides of the truck under the weather stripping. And here you can see what it looks like next to the T-nut that we're going to be installing. So I started off by using a center drill so that way I could get a perfectly centered hole to where I wanted it. And then I moved on to using a step drill. And the step drill worked really well because it doesn't grab like a standard drill bit, and it gives you very small increments and allows you to control the depth because I didn't want to go through my headliner, and I didn't remove the headliner. Instead, I went ahead and used a vacuum while drilling. And then after I used a step drill to get it almost to size, I finished it off with a drill, being very careful not to let the drill pull through the headliner. And I used a vacuum, keep all those chips out. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 got through, but you'll never notice. Now, one thing that is not in CBI's directions is that you may run into this issue where their spacer they give you does not fit in the channel because of what looks to be like this weld, and so it doesn't fit flush. So I pulled the Dremel out and started drilling it, and I realized it's just silicone. So you'll have to go ahead and after you get your holes drilled, go in there and just round out the edges just a little bit so that way that spacer sits flush. You can see there where I just kind of took the corner out, and that was just enough. Now, I am under the opinion that you cannot have too much silicone. So I went ahead and I used silicone. I put it on the hood of the truck, and I put some on the nut before I put the nut into the roof. In the description below, I included a link for a tool to install these nuts. I would suggest that you look at what you're using if you already have one, because these nuts are pretty long and you want to get a good thread bite on there. I tried to use a tool with too short of threads on it, and it stripped out one of the nuts before I was able to get it completely installed, and I had to grind it off of the truck. So definitely be careful while doing this. Don't forget to apply silicone between the washer and the nut as well. You will definitely need 2 people when setting the roof rack on to not ruin your silicone that you put on. to get it all lined up. And then put the bolts on lightly so you can get all of 4 on each side set up. And then go around kind of like tightening a tire, and tighten one, then the next, and the next, and just keep going in a circle around the truck until you get them all tight. And I got mine pretty snug. The trim that goes on the wind guard will need to be trimmed off just a little bit on the edge. You can always purchase additional rails at CBI if you wanted to mount additional things on your roof, or if you wanted to mount some Max Tracks. But I found them about half price off at this company called T-Nuts, and they sell them pre-manufactured, ready to assemble onto your truck. So I definitely recommend, if you're looking at ordering some extra cross rails, that you take a look at this website. I include the link in the description below, and it'll save you about half of what Prinsu charges. So I went ahead and installed this roof rack almost a year ago from when I'm making this video. And a couple of you might have any questions like, do I regret it? Has it leaked? And no, I do not regret it. It has not leaked. In fact, it's been great. I definitely will emphasize that you can never have too much silicone. I used almost 3 tubes of silicone, also in the description below. As you can see from the video, I also have one on the canopy of my truck, and I will be making a video soon to go over the installation of the rails and the canopy roof rack as well. So go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, ask, and I will try to answer them the best I can.